I was watching television the other day in which a reporter came on and said, we have no money in Providence. Our solution, we'll fire all the teachers, we'll hire them back in September, we'll hire the most inexperienced, cheapest teachers, the less senior people. That's how we're going to save money. I was jumping out of my skin watching that show, and they were talking like it was just the weather. We've got so used to such insanity that it's just, okay, that's what we're going to do. Our teachers are our heroes. We leave to go to work and leave our most precious asset, our children, with the teachers all day. Teachers are molding our children's minds, helping them learn, helping them read and write. They're our future. They're our heroes. In old societies, ancient societies, they value teachers. Our narrative has to be, we value learning, teaching over money. Our narrative has to be, we value people, children, over money. That needs to be our narrative. In Wisconsin, they are attacking the public sector, saying that the private sector has to pay more for their health insurance, has no more defined benefit plans. You can't have it neither. Talking about my members and your members in the private sector. This is the oldest trick in the book to divide and conquer. And when they get finished with the public sector, and say we're going to restrict collective bargaining, we're going to restrict what collective bargaining issues can address, they're going to go then to the the private sector, and say, you have to do the same. You can't negotiate over health insurance. This is divide and conquer. Our narrative is that we understand that you cannot live without other people's labor. It's not possible. Today we had some fish at the table. We may not see it, but sometime in the past, a fisherman had to kiss his wife goodbye, pat his son on his top of his head, and get on a boat to go out to sea and risk his life for over a month, working hard, catching the fish, bringing it into New Bedford, immigrant workers in New Bedford, standing 12 hours a day in water, cleaning the fish, a forklift driver putting it on a truck, a Teamster driver driving it to the restaurant, a chef who graduated from Johnson & Wales to cook, a single mom who has to survive and is trying to make a living to serve us, a high school or college person out of school for the summer has to clean the dishes. We cannot live without other people's labor. We will starve to death. We will freeze to death if people aren't making clothes. You can't live without other people's labor. And if you really reflect on this, each time you eat, each time you put on your clothes, and reflect on it, you will come to the realization of the importance of solidarity in a deep, profound way. That's our narrative. Our narrative is that we value everybody's labor equally. Whether you're cleaning a dish, or serving, or working in construction, building a wall, we all need each other. The bricklayer can't build a wall without the labor. There's a saying in my office, I have a little plaque that my wife bought me, which is a quote from Churchill, that says, no matter how beautiful The strategy is occasionally you have to look at the results. Now is the time for us to have an honest discussion with ourselves, with our membership, with people who think like us about what is really working. Because I hate to say to you, for me, I feel we're not winning. I know it's not right to say, but we're not winning. We need to re-examine our strategy. Now, I've been blessed with somebody giving me a book called The Dignity of Labor. It is speeches by Dr. King. And in those speeches, he is addressing labor unions. Because Dr. King understood, even though his primary purpose was civil rights, he understood that you could not achieve that in a vacuum. He spoke to labor and said labor and the civil rights movement has the same values. We have to unite together. He also understood that you can't spend your money in wars, and we have plenty of them, and spend your money in schools, and spend your money for health care, and spend your money for roads, and spend your money for the working poor. He built alliances with the peace movement. We need to build alliances with the peace movement, with the community groups, with people who have the same value as us. They may have a different emphasis, but it's the same value, about valuing humanity. We need to relook at ourselves and how we are addressing younger people. I know that Bobby Haynes is one of his big missions. But besides knowing how to get on those Googles and, what do you call them, emails, Facebook and other books and everything else. I only know about picking up a book at the library or a bookstore. But besides that, we need to look at the language that we speak that can inspire young people. They don't speak our language of collective bargaining. They don't understand, because a lot of their parents aren't in unions, about some of those terminologies. We have to find a way to be able to inspire young people around the values of the labor movement. We, in this struggle, in this Civil War, had an opportunity, as I said earlier, to relook at our values. So I'm forever grateful for that. I'm grateful for that opportunity to think about why I do what I'm doing, why you do what you're doing, why are we here? There is a poverty of values out there. Everything is upside down, and we need to begin to speak clearly, repetitively about our values, our vision of the future. There is a lot of pain out there. A lot of pain. I see that pain in this empty glance of a member that I had that was told 2 weeks ago he's losing his job after 20 years. I see that pain in the staring in his eyes. I hear that pain in my neighbor who, after a year and a half trying to find employment in Massachusetts, packed up his family and moved to another state in desperately trying to find a job. I see that pain in the face of a 53-year-old guy who lost his job and wanted 2 more years to get to retirement. I hear and see the pain and the tears of a single woman who loses her job and loses her house and is foreclosed on. These people have not only lost the American dream, they've lost their own individual dream. They feel betrayed and they feel hopeless. This pain, if we feel it, is a call to action. If you feel this pain, you must respond. That is the essence of responsibility, to respond to this pain. We can't stay home in our couches sitting on our hands. It's time for us to come together and to march together down at the hall. It's time for us to go to the Commons. It's time for us to wave the sword of truth and let truth meet lies in spin. It's a time for action. There's a moral crisis in this country, and silence is a betrayal. It is time for us to take our individual whisper and match it with our collective roar. It is a time for us to go to the top of the mountain and say what our vision of the future is. That we value learning. We value our teachers. We value labor. It's time for us to repeat and repeat on top of the mountain what we stand for. It is time for us to give back hope to people. And we cannot do that by silence. We can't. I know you can. I know we can. Because if we don't, who will? I know we can change this country. I know we can change the world. That we can go with love in our heart and compassion in our hands and build a compassionate society that responds to people who are in need. We can do this. Now is the time for us to do this. Now is the time for us to stand together. Now is the time for us to climb the mountain and tell our story and say what we value. Now is the time. Thank you.